Good day to all of you. Welcome back to my channel. Today let's talk about the main points of the 30 greatest novels from around the world. First of all, we have a work from Spain written by Miguel de Cervantes Saavedra. The work is Don Quixote. Don Quixote, an old man also named Alonso Quixano, imagines himself a knight and sets out with his loyal squire Sancho Panza. Together, they fight windmills thinking they are giants. The story humorously contrasts dreams with a harsh reality. Cervantes explores madness, imagination, and idealism. Don Quixote's delusion becomes a symbol of human hope and persistence. Sancho's realism balances his master's fantasy. The novel asks whether nobility lies in success or in the striving itself. It is considered the world's first modern novel. The next book is from Russia, that is Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace. This epic follows Pyotr Bezukov, Prince Andrei Bolkonsky, and Natasha Rostova during Napoleon's invasion of Russia. It mixes love, war, and philosophy. Tolstoy shows how personal lives are shaped by history. Pierre seeks spiritual meaning, Americaeus. Natasha's innocence and Andrei's pride reveal human growth. The novel questions free will and destiny. Through ordinary moments, Tolstoy captures the vastness of life. It remains one of the deepest studies of human experience ever written. The next work is from England, that is Jane Austen's novel Pride and Prejudice. Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy struggle with a pride, class, and a misunderstanding. Jane Austen paints life in the English countryside with a wit and irony. Elizabeth's intelligence and independence challenge social norms. Darcy's arrogance hides honesty and kindness. The story explores love built on respect, not wealth. Marriage, family, and morality form its core themes. Minor characters like Mr. Collins and Lydia add a humor and lessons. The novel remains a model of balanced social and romantic storytelling. The next book is from USA, that is Herman Melville's work Moby Dick. Ismail narrates the voyage of Captain Ahab, who hunts the white whale named Moby Dick. Ahab's obsession represents humanity's fight against fate. The crew of the ship that is titled Pequod shows the diversity of humankind. The sea becomes a symbol of mystery, death, and God. The whale stands for nature's power and the unknowable truth. Melville's language is poetic and philosophical. Ismail survives to tell the tale, embodying reason and endurance. The novel is a dark meditation on obsession and meaning. The next work is from Colombia, that is Gabriel Garcia Marquez's work 100 Years of Solitude. The novel follows several generations of the Buendia family in the town of Macondo. Jos Arcadio Buenta and Ursula starts the family legacy. Magical realism blends dream with the daily life. The story reflects Latin America's history of hope and destruction. Time repeats itself in endless cycles of love and loss. Solitude becomes the family's curse. Marquez shows how memory shapes destiny. It remains a masterpiece of imagination and a cultural identity. The next work is from Russia, that is Fyodor Dostoevsky's work, The Brothers Karamazov. The story centers on three brothers, Dmitri, who represents passion, Ivan, who represents reason, and Alyosha, who represents faith, accused of their father Fyodor's murder. Dostoevsky explores morality, guilt, and a belief in God. Each brother's conflict represents the struggle within the human soul. Ivan questions divine justice, while Alyosha embodies love. The novel examines sin, redemption, and a free will. It is filled with a psychological depth and a philosophical debate. The Grand Inquisitor episode remains iconic. The novel stands as Dostoevsky's ultimate moral and spiritual vision. The next work is from France, that is Victor Hugo's work, Les Miserables. Jean Valjean, a former convict, tries to live honestly after prison. He is pursued by Inspector Javert, who believes law outweighs mercy. Fantine, Cosette, and Marius add layers of love and sacrifice. Victor Hugo exposes the cruelty of poverty and social injustice. Each character's journey reflects forgiveness and faith. Javert's suicide shows the collapse of rigid morality. The Paris uprising symbolizes hope and a revolution. It remains a cry for compassion and a human dignity. The next work is from Italy, that is Dante Alighieri's work, The Divine Comedy. Though it is not a strict novel type, we can just consider it as a novel. Dante, guided by the poet Virgil and his beloved Beatrice, journeys through hell, that is purgatory, and heaven. Each realm represents moral purification. He meets sinners, saints, and rulers, learning from their fates. Beatrice symbolizes divine wisdom and salvation. The poem combines religion, philosophy, and politics. It's also Dante's search for spiritual peace. The structure mirrors humanity's moral journey. It remains one of the most profound poems on the soul's path to God. The next work is from Nigeria, that is Chinua Achebe's work, Things Fall Apart. Okonkwo, a proud Igbo warrior, fears weakness and loses everything when colonization begins. The story shows the fall of traditional African society. Achebe restores dignity to African voices silenced by colonial narratives. Okonkwo's anger mirrors cultural resistance and a tragedy. His downfall symbolizes the clash of old and new worlds. The novel blends folklore and realism. Themes of masculinity, fate, and identity dominate. It is Africa's most influential modern classic. The next work is from America again, written by F. Scott Fitzgerald. The work name is The Great Gatsby. Jay Gatsby loves Daisy Button and throws parties hoping she will return. Nicky Carraway narrates the glitter and sadness of the jazz age. The green light symbolizes unreachable dreams. Gatsby's wealth hides loneliness and illusion. Daisy and Tom represent a moral emptiness. The story critiques the corrupt American dream. Gatsby's death exposes society's cruelty. It remains a timeless tale of love, hope, and disillusionment. The next work is from Russian literature, that is Fyodor Dostoevsky's work Crime and Punishment. Raskolnikov, a poor student, kills an all-day pawnbroker, believing he is above moral law. He is haunted by guilt and fear. The novel studies the psychology of crime. Sonia, a kind prostitute, guides him toward a redemption. Inspector Porfiry symbolizes his moral conscience. Dostoevsky shows that suffering can lead to spiritual awakening. The novel contrasts rationalism with a compassion. It remains one of the greatest psychological explorations ever written. The next work is actually an epic work, that is Homer's The Odyssey from ancient Greece. Odysseus struggles for 10 years to return home after the Trojan War. His wife Penelope and his son Telemachus wait for him. He faces Cyclops, sirens, and gods testing his courage. Athena helps him with wisdom and strength. The story explores loyalty, bravery, and homecoming. Odysseus represents human intelligence and perseverance. The sea symbolizes life's trials and destiny. It remains the foundation of Western adventure storytelling. The next work is from USA, that is J.D. Salinger's work, The Catcher in the Rye. Holden Caulfield, a teenage boy, wanders New York after being expelled. He feels alienated and calls adults phonies. The novel captures youth's confusion and rebellion. Holden's care for his sister named Phoebe shows his innocence. The catcher dream symbolizes protecting purity from corruption. Salinger's story is conversational and honest. The story is both sad and tender. It remains a symbol of teenage loneliness and truth-seeking. The next work is from England. There is Emily Bronte's work, Wuthering Heights. Heathcliff and Catherine's wild love destroys them both. The story is set on the stormy Yorkshire moors. The passion crosses boundaries of class and morality. Revenge and obsession drive Heathcliff's cruelty. The next generation seeks peace and healing. The novel mixes Gothic intensity with human emotion. Nature mirrors the character's tempests. It remains a dark, haunting tale of love and pain. The next book is from USA, that is Harper Lee's work, To Kill a Mockingbird. Scout Finch narrates her childhood in a racist southern town. Her father, Atticus Finch, defends Tom Robinson, a black man falsely accused. The story reveals innocence facing injustice. Boo Radley, a reclusive neighbor, becomes a quiet hero. The mockingbird symbolizes goodness harmed by prejudice. Harper Lee shows moral courage and empathy. Scout learns compassion through experience. The novel remains a timeless classic called for justice and humanity. The next work is from France, that is Gustave Flaubert's work, Madame Bovary. Emma Bovary marries to the dull doctor Charles Bovary, dreams of passion and luxury beyond her small-town life. She begins a secret love affair and spends money recklessly to escape boredom. Flaubert shows how romantic illusions destroy reality. Emma's longing for excitement becomes her downfall. Her husband's honesty contrasts her restlessness. The novel exposes social hypocrisy and a women's confinement in a 19th century France. The detailed realism made it revolutionary for its time. It remains a sharp study of desire, illusion, and a disillusionment. The next work is from England. There is Charles Dickens' work, Great Expectations. Pip, an orphan, dreams of becoming a gentleman after receiving secret financial help. He falls in love with the cold but beautiful Estella, raised by Miss Havisham. As Pip grows, he learns his great expectations come from a convict named Magwitch, not a nobility. The story explores ambition, class, and a true worth. Pip's moral growth makes him humble and kind again. Dickens fills the novel with rich characters like a Joe Gargery and a Jaggers. The marshes and a London both symbolize moral confusion. It remains one of the most powerful coming-of-age novels ever written. The next book is from Ireland, England. That is from Britain. There is Oscar Wilde's book, The Picture of Dorian Gray. Dorian Gray, a young man of great beauty, wishes to stay youthful while his portrait ages instead. Influenced by Lord Henry, he lives a life of pleasure and sin. The painting begins to show his corruption and guilt. Dorian's soul decays as he hides the portrait in shame. Wilde explores vanity, morality, and the cost of indulgence. Basil Hallward, the painter, represents conscience and art. The novel combines beauty with horror in a moral fable. It remains a timeless reflection on art, sin, and the soul. The next work is from USA, that is John Steinbeck's work, The Grapes of Wrath. The Jodd family leaves Oklahoma during the Great Depression, seeking work in California. Tom Jodd, recently freed from prison, becomes the novel's central voice of justice. The family's journey reveals poverty, struggle, and the strength of human unity. Steinbeck exposes greed, inequality, and exploitation by landowners. Ma Jodd symbolizes endurance and a maternal love. The story blends realism with a deep biblical symbolism. The novel shows hope amid despair and faith in human dignity. It stands as one of the most powerful works on social justice. The next book is from Russia, that is Leo Tolstoy's next work, Anna Karenina. Anna, a married woman, falls in love with the officer Vronsky and leaves her family for him. Society condemns her, leading to isolation and a tragedy. In a contrast, Levin and Kitty's marriage represents spiritual love and a renewal. Tolstoy contrasts passion with moral responsibility. Anna's faults symbolize the conflict between personal freedom and a social order. The novel explores love, hypocrisy, and a destiny. Tolstoy's realism captures human emotions in depth. It remains one of the most profound novels ever written about love and guilt. The next book is from France, that is Algeria. Albert Camus' work, The Stranger. Moussault, a quiet man in Algiers, kills an Arab for no clear reason. He feels no guilt about it and is condemned more for his indifference than for the murder itself. Camus presents a life as absurd and without meaning. Moussault's lack of emotion shocks society and the reader. The sun and heat symbolizes fate and human helplessness. Through his execution, he finds peace in accepting life's absurdity. The novel explores alienation, freedom, and moral emptiness. It remains central to existentialist philosophy and modern thought. The next work is from America, that is Ernest Hemingway's work, The Old Man and the Sea. Santiago, an old Cuban fisherman, battles a giant marlin far out in the sea. Alone and exhausted, he shows courage and pride despite age and loss. The fish becomes a symbol of his endurance and spirit. Sharks attack and destroy his catch, but not his dignity. Hemingway's language is simple yet deeply powerful. The sea represents life's struggle and beauty. Santiago's defeat becomes a moral victory. The novel celebrates strength, honor, and resilience in the face of fate. The next work is from Czech Republic, that is Franz Kafka's The Trial. Joseph K. is arrested by mysterious authorities for a crime never revealed. His search for justice leads through absurd courts and meaningless procedures. Kafka's world reflects human anxiety and helplessness before power. Bureaucracy becomes a nightmare of confusion and guilt. Joseph K.'s execution symbolizes society's control over the individual. The story explores alienation and the loss of meaning. Kafka's surreal style predicts human existentialism. It remains a haunting vision of modern life's absurdity and fear. The next book is from USA, that is William Faulkner's work, The Sound and the Fury. The Compson family's decline is told through 4 different narrators, including the mentally challenged Benji. Each voice reveals a different view of time, memory, and guilt. Quentin's obsession with his sister, Caddy, leads to tragedy. The stream of consciousness style captures psychological chaos. The novel explores decay, honor, and the changing South. Caddy's lost innocence symbolizes moral collapse. Faulkner's language is complex but deeply emotional. It remains a masterpiece of modernist experimentation. The next work is from Brazil, that is Paulo Coelho's work, The Alchemist. Santiago, a young shepherd, dreams of finding treasure near the Egyptian pyramids. On his journey, he meets the king Melchizedek, the Englishman, and the alchemist. The story teaches that true treasure lies within one's heart. Coelho blends mysticism, faith, and destiny. The desert becomes a symbol of testing and transformation. Santiago learns to listen to omens and his personal legend. The novel inspires readers to follow their dreams. It remains one of the most widely read spiritual allegories in the world. The next work is from Russia or USA, we can say. That is Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita. Humbert, a literature professor, becomes obsessed with a young girl named Dolores Lolita Hayes. He manipulates and controls her, destroying both their lives. Nabokov uses beautiful language to expose monstrous desire. The story reveals the corruption behind a charm and intellect. Lolita becomes both a victim and a symbol of lost innocence. The unreliable narration makes readers question morality. The novel is shocking, yet artistically brilliant. It remains a study of obsession, guilt, and the dark side of desire. The next work is from USA, that is Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. The unnamed black narrator struggles to find identity in a racist America. His journey through college, politics, and Harlem shows alienation and invisibility. The novel blends realism, surrealism, and a social critique. Symbols like the briefcase and the battle royal expose injustice. Ralph Ellison portrays the search for voice and individuality. The narrator realizes society refuses to see him as human. His invisibility becomes both a curse and an insight. It remains a cornerstone of African American literature and identity. The next book is from England, that is J.R.R. Tolkien's book, The Lord of the Rings. Frodo Baggins, a humble hobbit, must destroy the evil Ring of Power. With his friends Sam, Gandalf, Aragorn, and others, he journeys through Middle-earth. The ring symbolizes competition and moral corruption. The story celebrates friendship, courage, and sacrifice. Each character faces inner and outer battles. Tolkien creates a rich world of mythology and hope. Good triumphs through humility and unity. It remains the most beloved fantasy epic in world literature. The next book is from England, that is Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. Set during the French Revolution, A Tale of Two Cities follows Charles Darnley and Sidney Carton. Carton sacrifices his life out of love for Lucy Manet. The novel contrasts London's calm with Paris' chaos. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Captures its tone. The guillotine symbolizes both justice and terror. Dickens shows redemption through selfless love. Carton's final act gives meaning to his wasted life. It remains one of the most emotional tales of sacrifice and resurrection. This work is from India, that is The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. Rahil and Esther, twins in Kerala, experience a tragic childhood shaped by caste and a forbidden love. Their mother, Ammu's affair with Veluta, an untouchable, leads to disaster. The story moves between past and present through poetic language. Arundhati Roy exposes the cruelty of social systems and a family silence. The river and a house becomes symbols of memory and decay. Love, loss, decide who should be loved and how. The novel blends politics, pain, and beauty. It remains one of India's most powerful and lyrical modern works.